Hey, this is Dan Yerger with My Wealth Planners. This is an update on the process of transitioning the book of business I had with my previous affiliated firm over to My Wealth Planners. And once I get past the status update part, I'm going to spend some time talking more about the nitty and gritty of the experience, which is only going to be interesting for you if you're really interested in how this is actually happening, or if you're a financial planner out there who's wondering what the process actually looks like, how long it takes, all that fun stuff. So catching you up, we have since Tuesday migrated over 48 clients out of 89 households and small businesses that we work with. Everyone else either has their paperwork and just has to sign it, or they've asked us to hold off because they're on vacation or have something else going on at the moment. And a small handful are behind the sort of paywall of state registration requirements, which is just a hurdle that we have to clear when the states allow us. This has been a heck of an experience. It has given me a huge appreciation for all the attorneys and accountants out there, because I think this is what it feels like to be going into a career-changing litigation, or what an average April 15th feels like for tax accountants and CPAs and all those folks. It's been a 16-hour day every day, essentially since Tuesday. And if you don't remember, I had a head of hair and was not gray before this week. So those clients who signed stuff back on Tuesday already have their stuff inbound, which is awesome. That is moving way faster than I thought it would, which is great. And everything else has moved way faster than I would have expected. That's the short version. If you're a client right now, you should already have your paperwork, or if you don't, it's because you either asked me not to or because there's a state regulator in the way. And if you're not a client and you're wondering about fee-only financial planning, I'm now not so busy that I can't answer some new people's questions. So thanks, and if you're sticking on for the long version, here we go. So we got our letter of approval from the state of Colorado last Friday, the 6th, which was awesome and is also the biggest tease possible. And I say that because when you get your approval, the SEC website does not necessarily approve the second the state pushes the go button. And so you are legally good to go, and you will contact your vendors and be like, hey, turn me on, get my stuff set up, let's do it. And like, yeah, good for you. We'll get right on activating you as soon as the SEC agrees with what you're telling us. So then you end up waiting over the weekend, and then Monday comes around and your stuff will get turned on at about 5 p.m. because you're just one of their many customers and they don't just drop everything for you. And of course that means after everything is closed and you can't do anything, you're really starting to hit the ground on Tuesday. So that's where our story really is going to start, because now you are staring down what turned out for me to be about 6,400 pages of paperwork. In fact, exactly 6,400 pages of paperwork. And something that is going to go wrong there is just going to happen. But I'll talk about that in a minute. For those of you who are wondering about TD Ameritrade's platform, so far I'm really impressed. I think they do a pretty incredible job. The whole of this week, everything has more or less mailed out and passed their systems with little to no issues, or at least no issues that were really caused by them. Their support team has been awesome. I don't know if you've ever felt like a help desk was just playing the shell game with you, where they're just trying to pass you off until you give up. But that has not been the case with TD. Their agents pretty much take ownership of you the second they pick up the phone, and I haven't had a single issue that was left outstanding or will follow up with you or anything like that. Everything has been on course to get fixed as soon as it was identified. On the side of migrating clients and how handling that has been going, I did some pre-work on this, which is on Friday when I got my state notice. I called everyone and gave them the news. Hey, this is Dan. We got our state registration. We're going to start moving to onboard everyone as soon as we can next week. That's a very easy conversation to have, not a lot of questions or anything like that. But then you will run into some bumps, like I mentioned before. So here are some of the bumps, or some of the things that you should kind of be prepared for or be ready to deal with in a process like this. First, you by law have to have something called a Form ADV Part 2A and Part 2B. And if you don't have those, you're not doing what I'm doing right now. These are your disclosure documents. When you are SEC registered, like the big firms, those big names out there, you have a bunch of different versions of the forms which give different legal disclosures and descriptions of your services, but they're usually broken down by the service. So they'll have one for investment management, one for retirement plans, one for financial planning, and so on. And that's not really the case with the states. With the states, they want you to have one consolidated Form ADV, which means that the thing you are actively trying to do with the client, like setting up their investment management, which is going to be on the same page or in the same chapter as your financial planning service, your tax prep service, your consulting service, anything else you might offer at your firm. And if you're not careful, as I've discovered, some people will confuse what you're putting in front of them. So I've gotten a handful of calls or emails from people saying, hey, what is this $1,000 fee I have to pay up front? I never had to do that before. I don't like that. Or, I'm going to pay $200 a month when I have a $30,000 account with you. That seems like way too much. And they would be absolutely right. That would be way too much. But the fact is that they're really just going to be paying a flat percentage of assets under management like they did before, and in some cases lower than they did before. So here's one big piece of advice for any planners out there thinking about doing this. Make sure your Form ADV really, really clearly spells out or calls out that these are separate services that are separate fees for those services. Because it's one of the big points of confusion or hangups that I've seen with a lot of people. Second thing that comes out is you are drinking from a fire hose, and this is probably the most important thing you've done for your business. But that sense of urgency does not imprint upon your clients at all. So even with several dozen households and small businesses that have come over, there are dozens more that have had their paperwork for a few hours, a day, a few days, or even then the first 5 clients that you're going to send your forms to. It doesn't matter. Your clients are busy. They have jobs, they have families, they have life events, they have family in town for the holidays. This is not the thing that's going to be at the front of their list of priorities. Whatever the reason, stand by, because if you just constantly refresh your inbox to see if they signed things, you're going to go crazy. And you're going to go crazier if you see that they opened the forms and didn't sign them, because now you're spinning around of what's wrong, what happened, did they not like what was there, are they going to decline the offer, did I make a huge mistake and send them the wrong forms, and they're looking at somebody else's name being like, does this guy even know who I am? Take a chill pill, because some people are going to turn around your stuff so fast you'd think the system glitched, like you hit send and you get it back 2 minutes later, and just how did that happen? And some people, even people you thought were going to be your biggest fans, or the people you thought would be really on top of it, are busy right now, and they're going to get to it at some point. I cannot believe how quickly some people have gotten things back, and the times people have signed things. 11:30 at night, 3:45 in the morning. People operate on their own schedule, and you're just going to have to let that happen. Third, there's going to be a pile of fix-it things that start to build up in days 2 or 3. The analogy I'd like to use here is shoveling snow. You push it through a pile of snow, and even though you've cleared like a nice line across your driveway or something, there's always those clumps and bits that fall off the sides and end up behind you. These are the nitpicks in the paperwork you're doing. Maybe you typed in address on someone's form wrong, or you submitted a Form A instead of Form B, or maybe a client signed the form, but they didn't initial their approval for you to manage their stuff. Whatever the problem is, this stuff is the time suck of the century. On Wednesday, about 24 hours into this process, I had to spend about 3 or 4 hours clearing up this sort of stuff before I could get down to continuing to help onboard people. Thursday, twice as much, about 8 hours spent on this, because the more clients start signing paperwork, the more of this stuff shows up and piles up, and the problems get made much faster than the solutions get put back into place, because if it's all in good order out of the gate, you're pretty much fine. It should sail through nicely. The second something goes wrong, I almost guarantee you're going to need to have a wet signature, or something else is going to be involved. So you just really have to make sure you're staying on top of that stuff, because that can pile up behind you in a huge hurry. One big tip here is going to be about transfers. If you are transferring ACAT eligible stuff, DocuSign signatures will work just fine. If it's not ACAT eligible, if it's like directly at a mutual fund somewhere, you're almost definitely going to need a wet signature on the paperwork that you sign in, and you're going to have to decide whether you want to do that in advance and have that done before you send the client the rest of the paperwork, where it's just a scanned in wet signed document as part of the rest of the digitally signed documents, or you're going to have to decide if you want to fix it on the back end. I am going the route of fixing it on the back end because most of my clients have ACAT eligible assets, and it's a small side account of some variety that is not ACAT eligible. And so I'd rather get their accounts open, get the reporting started, get their other stuff moving, and then chase down those extra items. So that's a choice you're going to have to make on your own. Again, I cannot emphasize enough how much the service team at TD really shines on this. They have an answer for everything. It's just a matter of your ability to clarify or fix it. But that's totally up to you. The other piece here is going to be integrations, and I think I'm going to wrap up on integrations because this is starting to get a little long-winded. When I was prepping for this transition, every tech vendor and platform goes the under-promise, over-deliver route when it comes to how fast they're going to get your stuff set up. Pretty much everyone says, oh, it's going to take days, possibly a week or two. It's not, sometimes it's us, sometimes it's them. No, every single vendor I'm using, and I did not kind of go onesie twosie here. I have a vendor for pretty much everything. Everything gets turned on within about 24 hours. Which is great, and frankly, the average has been like 1 to 2 hours after I've submitted the request or the paperwork, whatever it is. That was the long version. If you held on that long, thanks for doing so. I'm going to go get a drink with some friends, and I'm going to take a break. For my attorney and my accountant friends, you are gods. I do not know how you do this sort of volume every day or every tax season, but God bless you. You are superhuman. All right, thanks. Take care, and God bless.